Hey everyone, Frankenoise here, just doing my latest book review. The book is called Precog by Lee Duigon. It's a Pinnacle horror from 1990. It has 6 ratings on Goodreads as of now. That might include the one I'm going to give it, but it's very low rated. And you see on here that it says horror. Well, okay, I thought maybe it would be horror sci-fi because of the title being precognition, and reading the back a bit, which I'll get to. But after reading it, no, straight 100% sci-fi. There's maybe a little bit of fantasy, but that's just kind of the vision sequences, which we'll get to, but not an ounce of horror. Straight up BS. So honestly, this book gets like one less star just because of that. If I had to get a 5-star rating, um, Lee would do only one other horror book, and that would be in probably the same year, I think. But other than that, he did an 11-book fantasy series, I think written for teens, called the Bell Mountain series. So other than that, I can't really see much else he did. But yeah, he's not known for horror, but the Bell Mountain series he's known for sure. So the back of the book, just reading it, it pretty much tells the first 12 chapters kind of summed up in the back. So if you don't want to read the first 11, 12 chapters, I think, just read the back. But yeah, I won't read it. So I was a little bit disappointed how the back kind of gave away quite a bit of this book. I'd rather just have a simple synopsis, kind of like only he knew the future and only he could change it. That's good enough. You don't have to tell me half the story. So basically, let's get into the book here. Robin Lloyd is the only child of Henry and Susanna. Um, Robin's the main protagonist of the whole story. He's in grade 6 when the book starts. He's beginning a lot of C's in class when he graduates grade 6, and his mind likes to do what the author calls wool gathering, which is a term I never heard, but I guess it means not being able to focus in class, which happens to a lot of kids. But his father goes to some extremes to try and change that. He works for biotechnics with some Russian named Volkov, which we won't mention ever again because he's in most of the book but is pretty useless and doesn't contribute anything to the ultimate end of the story, so we won't talk about Volkov again. But Henry works for biotechnics and he has this treatment that he wants to use his son as a guinea pig for, which basically makes him smarter, makes him focus more. So after a few poking and proddings with needles and tests, his son starts seeing minor visions. Seeing a boy get killed is one of them, which can be pretty traumatic for a kid. But after a while, his son goes into a fit, even poops himself, which is mentioned in the story, and goes into a coma. Now this is where the kind of the writing of the story gets a little wonky. That's chapter 11. You go to chapter 12, all of a sudden 7 years have passed. No warning, no nothing. And I'm like, did I miss something? Are there pages missing? But no, it just kind of jumps ahead 7 years without telling you. You do find out before that Henry's wife kills herself because of what Henry did to her son by putting him into a coma, which is pretty traumatic. And then Henry just goes off and buggers off for the payoff from his company and leaves his son in a coma. He doesn't even know if he's going to wake up. He just up and takes like $250,000 or something and just leaves. It's the most ridiculous thing I ever read for like a family to happen to something to happen to a family. It was like laughing. But yeah, so we jumped 7 years now, like I said, and Robin's in college. He has a roommate named Denny, and this is again where it gets ridiculous. They start talking about Robin's past, and now Robin and Denny want to quit college to help look for his dad. Just like that. Denny's gonna throw away his future to help look for his newfound friend's dad. Exactly, pretty silly. So, Robin meets Denny's sister Jane after their trail goes a little cold, not finding his dad. So Robin and Jane fall in love. He tells her his life story, blah blah blah. During this time, there's a bounty hunter named Eldon who's looking for Robin and wants what's in Robin's head because he knows what kind of treatments were happening with his dad's company, Biotechnics. So Eldon is looking for this kid. He can't get anything out of Volkov because he has Alzheimer's now, which is just like so convenient. But yeah, so basically, skipping ahead, Henry's eventually found. He's changed his identity. He's the mayor of a city called Copper Creek in New Jersey. I guess it's pretty small and idyllic. And so basically, Robin and Henry obviously don't get along. Henry's amazed that he was even alive, which is like, duh, you know. So, yeah, there's a really ridiculous portion of dialogue that kind of happens during this part on page 149. I'm just going to read you an example of some of the dialogue from this book. And, okay, this is from Eldon, who I should mention, they make a point of making Eldon black. They mentioned it a few times, and I don't know what significance that has, but it's 1990. Maybe they were trying to get more black people involved in horror stories. I don't know. But so this Eldon bounty hunter is black. There's some dialogue here. So, I don't blame you for being cautious, Johnson said with a smile, but he begrudged the extra hours these obstinate baboons were going to cost him. You can call Biotechnics in Baltimore or our central office in New York. I'll let the phone company give you the numbers in case you think I made them up. Call them first thing in the morning, and then I'll phone you from my motel, and we can talk turkey. We can talk turkey. This is coming from a CI agent pretending to be a bounty hunter that's been searching for Henry for like months, and that's how he talks. We can talk turkey. I was just like, what the hell? But anyway, the whole book's like that. There's just these weird dialogue scenes. I'm gonna read another one later. But during this time too, during his search, Robin's been getting messages from hell, which he thinks it's hell, but we find out it's not. And voices from his dad, visions from his dad shooting him. So Henry is going to shoot his son. That's what Robin's been seeing. Which, of course, we find out isn't true, because why would the main protagonist of a story, get shot by his own father? I wasn't gonna bet my life on it that was gonna be the ending, and I was right. So I'm just gonna turn. I got some notes here I made, mostly page numbers. So I'm just gonna turn that. Don't mind me. So here we go to another piece of ridiculousness, involving Eldon again, this top operative CIA agent. It involves I labeled my notes the ridiculous pillow karate. So, this is Eldon. He looked out the window. You really could see the bay from here, an expanse of gleaming azure. Amazing you could get a room so cheaply. Well, the place didn't look like much from the outside, and the furnishings were odd. He wished Thanksgiving would get itself over with, so he could go to work on Robin, meaning beat him up, I guess. Boy, I've got you, and anyone who says I don't is going to wind up like that pillow. Now, that pillow is this. Eldon Johnson concluded his morning martial arts routine by tossing a pillow into the air and using a rigid pointer finger to poke a hole in it before it came down. Anyone can knock a hole through a wall, but I'm the only one who can do it through a pillow. Alright, tough guy. Just beat up a pillow. Okay, so basically after fighting with a pillow, Eldon tracks Robin down. Robin meets a warrior chief in his dreams, a few times actually. It's a butchy woman in armor. I was reminded of like Red Sonja, only think Red Sonja of Conan size, which is the fantasy elements in this book. I can see why he wrote fantasy later on, because those fantasy dream sequences are actually really good. It's like, oh, too bad the whole story wasn't like that and not labeled as horror. If it was labeled as fantasy, I probably wouldn't have picked it up, but still. I did like those dream sequences. So yeah, eventually Eldon confronts Jane and Robin, Jane being Robin's girlfriend, after lots of blah 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 and useless dialogue. But Jane and Robin also want to bugger off to Hawaii. They want to just leave all this fuss and mess behind. They forgive Henry for what he did, but they don't want to really have anything to do with him, and Henry understands. But just as they're about to leave, Eldon confronts them, and a ridiculous family struggle with Eldon and this gun going back and forth, and then eventually, which you probably would have guessed, Eldon gets shot. That's the vision that Robin saw, thinking it was him. No, it was the bad guy, Eldon, getting shot by his father. So, I mean, the whole vision thing, which I think they mentioned like 3 times, is just pointless, unnecessary. So, yeah. So, after Eldon's dead in the living room of his dad's, Henry's place, Robin and Jane are finally like, okay, well, I guess we can go now. So, let's go now. So, off to Hawaii they go. And, Henry's just sitting there, mulling over everything. I'm not going to call the cops. I should just break this mental link I have with my son. Because I guess they don't mention it quite a bit, but Henry does have some kind of mental link with his son Robin. So he figures if he shoots himself, he breaks that link. And he does. Boom! Henry shoots himself. And I guess that breaks up the butchy woman that Robin keeps seeing, and that breaks up that whole link, because then Robin and Jane are in a hotel room, and they see on the news that what just happened, Henry's dead, and there's also some mysterious CIA agent dead as well. So Henry is dead, and Robin has his last vision, and the vision is of that butchy woman called the Warrior Chief, which I'm not sure if I mentioned. She's called the Warrior Chief, and she just all of a sudden has this whole boom appear in her forehead, and blood drips down. And he realizes, oh, my dad shot himself. So it's like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, then after that, they, basically turn off the TV and, okay, we're off to Hawaii. Story ends. So yeah, basically, pretty disappointed in this one. I picked it up because I read a lot of sci-fi, even though I want to get back into horror. I've read sci-fi for about 15 years. But I knew this kind of had sci-fi elements, but no, it's all sci-fi, but I was disappointed. So I don't have any more of his books, and I won't get them just because they're all fantasy, pretty much. So overall, this one gets 2 bony fingers out of 5. And yeah, unfortunately, Lee, you did not tell your story well.